Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we are comparing an inside cabin to a balcony cabin on a cruise ship.
Yeah, we have mostly been balcony people for our whole cruising life, but this last year we ended up getting a lot of inside cabins for one reason or another, and we kind of started to see the merits of the inside cabin a little bit more. So we're going to break down in what scenarios you may want to go balcony and which ones you may want to get an inside cabin, the pros and cons. But I'll start out with the first balcony cabin, and the reason that we always in the past would get a balcony cabin was partly because of you get a little bit seasick, and you always found that having the balcony cabin, if you could step outside and get some fresh air, it kind of helped a little bit, you know?
It definitely makes a difference to be able to get some fresh air real quick, especially if you're not feeling well. You don't really want to leave your room to go someplace else in the ship and then have to worry about trying to figure out where the bathroom is if you're going to be sick. At least in your room, you could just run out to the balcony real quick, and if you are going to be sick, you could run right into the bathroom real quick, which I have done a few times, but not very much more often. It was more in our early sailing days when the cruise ships were not quite as stable as they are now. So that's, I think, a really big deal for me personally for that purpose.
Yeah, so we kind of overinflated that in our mind, though, because with the use of a few seasickness pills, it's really been minimized since we really kind of forced ourselves to try an inside cabin, see what it was like. And I know you were a little apprehensive, but it ended up being just fine because there really wasn't a problem at all. So that is a pro for the balcony, is to be able to get that fresh air whenever you need it. Mm-hmm. But I think, as you said, it's not as big of a deal as it used to be.
Right.
Yeah,
the ships are definitely more stable now than they used to be 15, 20 years ago when we first started cruising, and now it's, they're a lot less rocky, and there's actually a bonus reason for an inside room, which we'll talk about in a minute when we get to that.
Yeah, so another pro for the balcony cabin is it's going to be a bigger room. In almost every case, you get that extra space. You'll generally get a couch, which you don't always get in an inside cabin, and we did have an inside cabin recently for 14 days, I think. It did get a little tiresome to not have somewhere to sit other than to lay in the bed at night in there, and I think that's a consideration if you're on a longer cruise. But just a bigger room is nice to have, and that's something that we enjoy.
Yeah, and it actually seems even bigger because you have that balcony and you can see out. It doesn't feel as confined as you're in the four walls in the inside cabin.
Probably the biggest and the best reason to get a balcony, and one reason we would do it, is to be able to see some scenery. So if you're on an Alaska cruise, something like that, definitely recommend the balcony. I know something that was special for us this year. We sailed in and out of New York City twice, and we had a balcony one time. We had an inside cabin the other time. And on the time that we had the balcony, we came in and sailed right past the Statue of Liberty early in the morning. It was about 5 a.m. maybe, and we woke up. We were on the side with it, so we just kind of went on the balcony, saw it, took some pictures. It was amazing. Had we been in an inside cabin, I don't think we would have bothered to go out and try to find a place on the deck. It was nice just to stay in your pajamas, see that. And, when you're in Alaska doing a cruise like that, the captain of the ship will say, "Oh, look out on the port side. You can see this. Just hop out on your balcony. You can see it. You don't have to go scurrying around, and by the time you get there, whatever you were supposed to be seeing is now gone." So that's that's a big advantage, just seeing the scenery.
Yeah, that's probably the one that is the biggest advantage on is the Alaska cruise. And we actually, when we did our Alaska cruise, we upgraded to we had a balcony room because we had gotten a really good fare on that one, and then kept checking the fares, as you always should do, and for like $20 more we could get upgraded to a balcony, and so we did, and we are so glad that we did, because I think there's really no other way to do Alaska if you don't have is to make sure you get the balcony.
Yeah, but the inside room we have done now. We did 3 of them already this year. There are some big pros to the inside room, and I would not just disregard the inside room at all. The first is cost. It's going to be substantially cheaper, and if you're, maybe you could do 2 cruises instead of 1. If you have the time, the cost is going to be a lot better. That's kind of a no-brainer as to what happens there. Was really expecting that. It was fine. One that we really didn't expect though is how much darker you can get the room at an inside cabin.
I think that's a pretty big deal. I mean, you're on vacation and you want to sleep in, right? And one of the things about a balcony room is those curtains aren't always blackouts, especially if you're like on a Virgin Voyage ship. They're not always really blacked out. So as soon as that sun comes up, especially if you're on the side where the sun is coming up, you are going to get a blaring light into your room and you're going to wake up earlier than you want to. Whereas in the inside cabin, what time is it? Could be midnight, could be, 9 a.m. We don't know. You have to look at your watch to figure that out. It was really a great bonus. We hadn't even thought about that.
Yeah, we had a hard time making breakfast on the NCL Gem because it was so dark in the room.
They were like, we're like 5 minutes away from pulling breakfast. I'm like, listen, I'm sleeping like a baby in this room.
Yeah, I don't think we've ever slept as well as we did in the inside cabin. That you do get great sleep in there.
Yes.
Number 2 is number 3 is you get less rocking on the inside cabin, and so that is going to help with your seasickness as well.
Yeah, and that was one of the concerns was, an inside cabin, I won't be able to go outside and get fresh air. But this was an added bonus that I didn't realize. But, those rooms, the inside cabins are in the center of the cruise ship. And if you're in the center and you're in the center and the center of the ship, mid-ship, and, in one of the mid-level decks as well, you're really going to be in good shape. And we were, I want to say it was like deck 8 or something that we were on this particular one, I think on the NCL Gem maybe. We were in the middle, midship, deck 8, and inside cabin, and it was really not bad at all. I didn't feel sick at all.
No.
And that was like a 10-day cruise, I think.
Yeah, and usually in a balcony cabin, you end up taking a Dramamine pill.
Yep, and I did not take it at all on that one.
So yeah, you don't have the balcony to go get the fresh air, but you ended up not needing it. So that's kind of a bonus. Another thing we didn't expect about the inside cabin is it was quieter. On almost every inside cabin we've been on, definitely quieter than the balconies.
Yes, because in general, what's on the other side of you is either another inside cabin or like, stairwells for the staff. So like the areas where the staff move around in the center, sometimes it's in between those inside cabins, or sometimes the inside cabins share a wall. It just depends on the ship. But on this particular one, I think it was in the center where the areas where the staff used, and it was really quiet. When you're on a balcony, sometimes it tends to be a little bit noisier because you can get ambient sounds from the decks below, the decks above, and from the people on either side of you as well.
Yeah, and especially if you're in the back, you can get sound from the thrusters. Another great feature of the inside cabin that we didn't know we needed was that it is much cooler, and we like the room to be cold, like cold. And so a lot of times, like we were on the MSC Seascape in a balcony cabin, it was transatlantic, and we were on the side that faced south as we were going across the Atlantic, and it was hot all day, every day, because the
blazing sun into the room.
And
it was so hot in there the whole day.
We turned that air down all the way, and it probably never got below 78 or 79 degrees Fahrenheit in the room. It was too hot for us. The sun was just incredible. But
yeah, we actually ended up keeping our shades shut almost the whole time during the day.
Yeah, on an inside cabin, that air will cool, like it will cool it.
It was like a meat locker in our room. You walk in, you're like, oh my gosh, it's so cold in here.
So for us,
you can sleep really well in a cold room, cold, dark room. Oh my goodness, that's how we slept so well.
Yeah, it was pretty amazing. We were like, can we stay on this ship longer? So I think we've learned some lessons this year. What do you think? Inside cabins are going to be good going forward? Not every scenario. Like if there's something to see, I think we will pick the balcony.
Yes. I think maybe we did a transatlantic one and an inside as well, and I think maybe in a transatlantic it's better to have an inside instead of an outside, or instead of a balcony, because you're gonna sleep well, and especially with all the time changes and everything. I think it's not out of the question. Whereas before it was like, oh, I'm not sure that I'm gonna feel well. I think it's definitely we'll put it into the rotation as appropriate, right?
So definitely don't just disregard inside cabin as being like a lower, lesser cabin. It definitely has a place when you're cruising, depending on the situation. Mm-hmm. Balconies are also amazing, but if you're paying like double, triple the price, not always worth it, I would say, in every situation.
Exactly. So let us know what you think. If you've done both inside and balcony, which one's your favorite and why? Let us know down in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you soon.